Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. This is bizarre. So, remember back in February we were talking about this watch period here in June. I uploaded this video on Noah's timeline that was the basis of the June 11th through the 13th watch right here. And June 11th through the 13th is the exact end of Noah's timeline starting at the 777 in 2008. But the ending of this timeline just happened to coincide with the 17th day of the second month on the true biblical calendar, which was the day the 40 days of rain started in the Noah story. So that was June 13th through the 15th. Then on a seemingly unrelated series of patterns having to do with the axis shifts and mega quakes, we ended up with the date June 14th again. So that was specifically a date as well, and that we discussed in this video, also uploaded back in February. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at what ended up happening during this watch period and try to understand the patterns that are playing out here. So aside from the 2 shootings earlier that week, we had another 3 solar flares, which started off the watch period right here. So we had 2 on June 10th and 1 on June 11th. And X flares are not exactly common, but they're not exactly rare either. So you can see this is SolarHam's website. In 2014, there was 1 flare in January, 1 in February, 1 in March, 1 in April, and then so far in June, there have been 3 back-to-back. So the 3 back-to-back June flares are more significant, and that started out our watch period here, right here. And then the World Cup opened in Brazil on June 12th. And for those of you that don't know, the World Cup is the most widely viewed sporting event in the world. Apparently, it's even more popular than the World Olympics, and it occurs every 4 years in a different hosting country. So this year it's in Brazil, and in the next one in 2018, it'll be in Russia. And there are a series of matches, and they opened on June 12th. Right here, and the final match will be held on June 13th. And on the opening day, on June 12th, they lit up the Christ statue in Rio in honor of the event. Okay, so look at the date that they lit up the Christ statue. It was June 12th, right in the exact middle of this first 3-day watch period right here in purple. June 11th, 12th, and 13th, exactly in the middle of that first 3-day watch period, which is the second major watch period in 2014. Exactly in the middle of that, on the 12th, they lit up the Christ statue. Okay, so you may remember that our last major watch period of 2014 was in January, specifically January 15th through the 17th, and right in the middle of that 3-day watch, lightning struck the hand of the Christ statue in Rio. So you can see this news article is June 17th, and it says right here that that the lightning actually occurred on Thursday, which was January 16th, right in the middle of our major 3-day watch period, which also, by the way, was a full moon. And this watch period right here, our second major watch period of the year, was also during a full moon, incidentally. And that one, by the way, was on Friday the 13th. I'm not saying that necessarily means anything. I just noticed it and thought it was kind of interesting. And that was also the full moon of Friday the 13th was also the exact day that the 2 watch periods overlapped. Okay, so then I don't know. And then on Saturday the 14th, right here, which was specifically the exact date on the earthquake chart, there was a 6.5 quake at exactly 11:11 a.m. So you can see right here, 3 different websites recorded it. It was exactly at 11:11. These 2 websites recorded it as 6.5. USGS recorded it as a 6.4. And it was centered right here in the South Indian Ocean. So there were a few things that were unusual about this. First of all, it occurred on June 14th, which was the date we were watching. And the second thing is that it occurred in the Indian Ocean, which, as you can see, is the same area where the first axis shift occurred in 2004, starting off this whole chart. And that was a really major event. Only over 230,000 people died. And the axis of the Earth shifted 2.5 centimeters, which is approximately 1 inch. And that quake in 2004, which struck right here off the coast of Malaysia, is the quake that started off the whole axis shift pattern right here on this side, which is turned into something else over here on this side. So I'm not sure what it really means, but we did predict this date right here, and it ended up being another Indian quake in roughly the same area right here. Exactly polar opposite to this one right here. And the other odd thing about this was that it occurred exactly at 11:11 a.m., but not just 11:11, it was 11:1100 UTC. So basically at the 11th hour, 11 minutes and 0 seconds UTC time. So I was curious how many times this happens with significant quakes. I mean, I was thinking, my first thought was this is really rare, but I wanted to confirm that. So I did a search on USGS and brought up all the significant earthquakes above 6.0 since the year 2000. And there was not a single one that occurred at 11:1100. So on their search, you can see the time is a little different on this search right here, because this earthquake, the 6.4 South Indian Ocean earthquake on June 14th, is recorded at 4:1100 here, because this is UTC minus 7 hours. So you can see they record it right here. It occurred at 11:1100 UTC time. But on this search engine, just so you know, it's UTC minus 7. So the 11:11 UTC time is recorded on this chart as 4:11. So you can see right here, the Indian Ocean quake, June 14th, is recorded as 4:11 because it's UTC minus 7. So I did a search on this chart for 4:11, which is 11:11 UTC. And you know, I found a few interesting things, but like I said, there was no 11:1100. I went all the way back to the year 2000. Right here, you can see we had 11:12:13 UTC in the Solomon Islands in 2013. And then in 2010, there was a significant quake at 11:18 and 15 seconds. And I think the closest one I found was in China in 2008 that occurred at 11:11 and 2 seconds. So that one was pretty close. So you can see how rare it is for that to occur. And then there was one in 2007 that occurred at 11:10 and 26 seconds UTC time. And then one in 2006 at 11:12 and 0 seconds UTC time, but still, again, not 11:1100. And then in 2002, there was one at 11:08. And in the year 2000, there was one at 11:10 and 47 seconds. But there were not any significant quakes all the way back to the year 2000. I didn't search prior to that. But it's rare for that to occur at 11:1100, 11:11 and 0 seconds, like this one here on June 14th. So it was a rare event. I mean, the whole thing with the 11s, I mean, when you really start looking at these patterns and you realize that this Japanese quake occurred at 3:11:11, and then the following year, the unprecedented quake event occurred on 4:11. I mean, and then you have 9/11. I mean, there's all these 11s in here. I mean, when you realize, when you really start noticing these patterns, it just kind of jumps out at you like, whoa, wait a second, this is unusual. But even if you don't recognize that, it's still unusual. It's unusual for an event to happen at 11:1100, and that's what happened. And we were watching this exact date prior to that. So I'm just saying it was unusual. So there were definitely a lot of significant patterns repeating exactly in this watch period. But the thing that really got me was this Christ statue lit up at the opening of the World Cup, because it seems to stem back to the previous 3-day watch period in January. So far we've only had 2 major watch periods, one in January and one in June. And in both of those watch periods, we had an event with the Christ statue in Rio, which was exact, because on this 3-day watch period, the lightning struck the Christ statue exactly on the second day. And then again in June, it was exactly on the second day of the 3-day watch. So there's something going on here. And this watch period in January, from the 15th through the 17th, is something we were talking about all the way back in June of 2013. So you can see right here, January 15th through the 17th. And we were watching that date because it was 1,260 days prior to the 70th Shavuot in 2017. So that's Shavuot on the true ancient calendar. And the only thing that happened during that watch was the lightning strike, as far as I'm aware of, which occurred again right here in the middle of that 3-day period. And the reason that lightning strike was significant, or the other reason that was significant, is because in 2012, I had a vision of lightning coming out from Jesus' palm. So, I mean, I didn't know whether it was coming off of his palm or hitting his palm. I mean, I thought in the vision that it was coming off of his palm, but it was just lightning and Jesus's palm. And I uploaded this in April of 2012 right here. And then in December 2012, right here, I uploaded this vision of Jesus standing in the position of the Christ statue in Rio. So that's why that was significant there. And this vision right here in December 2012 also included a tsunami. Okay, so we talked about this back in January, because it turns out that the balloon sculpture that I saw in this vision right here, where the tsunami hit, that balloon sculpture is in New York City, it turns out. But it's not just in New York City, it's at the New World Trade Center in New York City. So, I mean, there were some very bizarre synchronicities that occurred with that. I think those videos are in the playlist, Proof the Visions Come True. It's below. I'll link it below if you're not familiar with that. But it does seem like it's a warning about a New York tsunami. And I just want to point out something else that I haven't told you yet. And that is, you might remember I also saw in this vision right here, Jesus became a homeless man in this vision and was lying on his side in front of the balloon statue. Well, this community in North Carolina set up a Jesus sculpture called Homeless Jesus, which was very similar to what I saw in that 2012 vision. And I mean, you can watch the video. It's linked below in the playlist, Proof the Visions Come True. But they didn't set up this sculpture until 2013, right here. 2013, the first cast was installed in the United States in Davidson, North Carolina, which is right here near Charlotte, North Carolina. And as you can see, it's another location along the East Coast, east of the Appalachian Mountains. So again, in this vision I uploaded on December 15th, 2012, I saw the homeless Jesus and the balloon sculpture along with a tsunami. And the balloon sculpture turned out to be at the World Trade Center in New York City up here. And the homeless Jesus was set up after that, after I uploaded the vision, in North Carolina right here, both on the East Coast. So it's very bizarre, but it just really seems like it's a warning about an Atlantic tsunami. That's what makes sense, because in the vision, you might remember, I saw the tsunami coming in from this direction. So I saw the balloon sculpture, which is right here with the trees on either side of it. And the tsunami in my vision came in from this direction. Okay, so I'm going to have to stop the video and start part 2. The link is below to the playlist if you want to check that out.